going to talk about the video that's called Babies Say Hi. So I've written a brief little anecdote. You might want to watch that video a couple of times because sometimes it's harder to see the learning that's occurring in such a simple, what looks like a simple event, but is actually quite a big moment for the children involved. So this story that I wrote, very briefly, says, as baby B and C lay on their tummies on the mat together, B watched C intently. They made eye contact for a moment. C looked around the room, then back at B, and they made eye contact again. B said, "Ah," and C responded, "Ah." C looked at B again just as he put his head down. So there's no particular rules about anecdotes. It's whatever you need to tell the story. So in a simple little event like that, it actually sounds a little bit like a running record, except that it's in past tense. And I've only focused on those things that I thought were important to the story of their learning, which was the eye contact and the ah conversation. So I've described the sound that they make rather than say babbled. I've described that vocalization out of respect for the child because this is their language. This is their communication with each other. So I think it's important to describe accurately. Now I can then look at the developmental milestones to see, probably in the social part, maybe in the language part, maybe in the cognitive part, maybe in the physical part, to help me see the learning that was significant there. And I can also look in the EYLF or the VALDIF. Now I have to make a decision because they're big documents, particularly the EYLF. Is it likely to be about their identity, their sense of community, their well-being, their learning dispositions, or their communication? So I might look in well-being because I think that this is about their socialization, their social well-being, and I might look in communication because I think this is about them learning the beginnings of conversation. So I look in those documents. I don't need to find something to copy out. What I do is I can use those documents to give me like a pair of sunglasses to help direct my attention to the learning and filter out the side parts, and I can use it to give me words to describe. So in class again, another student with the baby with the balls with the red mat, on the red mat, she noticed that the child was picking up the ball, throwing it, going and getting it, picking it up, throwing it, going, getting it, picking it up, throwing it back. And in the EYLF, she found something about the child repeats patterns of movement. And she thought, I didn't realize that that was significant. I didn't know that that was an important moment of learning. So now I'm able to see that. Now I have the language to describe it. So she wrote that the learning was the child is learning patterns of movement. And then when she took that to the next steps, she said, well, how do I help them continue learning patterns of movements, the ones that they're currently learning, or perhaps some different ones? So maybe she could start singing some nursery rhymes like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, where the child can start to repeat the actions. So for this particular one, have a look in the EYLF to see if there's any information in there that's going to help you describe the learning that's occurring in this very small, brief moment but significant moment for the children. And then once you've identified what you think the learning is, then how do you take that learning to the next part of your planning? What do you have to set up in the environment? What conversations with adults do you need to have? What interactions with the babies do you need to have? What do you need to set up in the environment to help encourage the learning that you've identified?